afternoon. The Clayton County Board of Commissioners work session is now called to order. The time is 5:30 p.m. and we will get started. Board members, are there any preliminary items for the next BOC meeting that you would like to discuss?
Not on my end.
All right.
It's traffic.
I'll allow Commissioner Hambrick and Commissioner Davis to come on up. Again, are there any preliminary items for the June 16, 2026 board meeting that you guys would like to discuss at this time? You good? Okay. All right, we'll move on to our item 3, our agenda items. Our first one will be the FY 2025 audit presentation by Meredith Lipson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I want to apologize for last month skipping out real quick there. Had a family emergency, but I appreciate you having me back. Again, I'm here to present the fiscal year 2025 audit for the county. We do have a PowerPoint presentation that I'll go through. Just a quick run through of what we'll talk about, the engagement team, the overview of the audit opinion, the statements and footnotes, and the compliance reports. There are certain things we're required to communicate to you all as auditors. To talk about some financial trends and then some of the accounting recommendations that we have as a result of our audit. First off, again, I'm Meredith Lipson. I'm the partner in charge of the annual audit. Ryan Jones, also a partner, works on the audit with me. And then we also have an additional partner that served as a quality assurance partner, along with an engagement manager and several team members. Malden & Jenkins does an enormous amount of governmental auditing all across the state, all across the Southeast. We now have 19 offices in 8 states, and so we're very proud of the practice that we have for our governmental auditing and feel that we can bring a lot of information to you all because of our experience in doing so. Most important thing, our audit opinion. We did issue, well, first off, our responsibilities as part of, as auditors, are to perform the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. The objective is to provide reasonable but not absolute assurance that the basic financial statements are free from material misstatement. And the financial statements, as always, are the responsibility of county's management, and our responsibility is to express an opinion based on our audit procedures. We did issue an unmodified, clean opinion on the financial statements. Our opinion does refer to other auditors because there are 2 components within your annual comprehensive financial report that are audited by other auditors, the Development Authority and the Board of Health. Our report does include, for fiscal year 25, an emphasis of matter paragraph regarding the county's implementation of a new Governmental Accounting Standard Board statement, number 101, related to compensated absences. So let's talk about the financial statements and the footnotes first off. As part of the annual comprehensive financial report, there's a statement of net position, which encompasses all the assets, liabilities, and equity for all of the funds together. Total assets, deferred outflows of resources increased from approximately $1.35 billion to approximately $1.382 billion over the previous fiscal year. There were increases in both capital and in your cash and cash equivalents for the fiscal year 25. Your liabilities and deferred inflows decreased from approximately $762 million to approximately $741 million. The majority of that decrease was due to decreases in your pension and OPEB liabilities. Those fluctuate year to year depending on actuarial assumptions and market returns. The county's net position increased by approximately $57 million from the prior year's restated balance of $579 million. The end of the year net position totaled approximately $636 million. Of that amount, $321 million of the county's net position is restricted by outside parties, meaning the special purpose local option sales tax funds, those are restricted. A lot of the special revenue funds that you have, those amounts are restricted as well. Approximately $759 million of the county's net position represents the county's investment in capital assets. So that's not a liquid asset, of course. That's the property and equipment and furniture, infrastructure, and those items. Your unrestricted net position at June 30, 2025 is a deficit of approximately $443 million. However, that $443 million deficit, it is a deficit because of your net pension liability and your net OPEB liability. Those amounts are significant. They are significant for every government we work with, and many times because of the significance of those liabilities, it dips your net position down into a negative amount. I think the thing that you all should most be focused on, we'll talk about in a minute, is your general fund. What we've just talked about encompasses all your funds together and also includes those pension and OPEB liabilities. So when we look at the operations of the county as a whole, your total program revenues increased from approximately $95 million to $120 million. That increase was approximately 26% and was the result of a number of different grant revenues that were higher than they had been in the previous year. Your total program expenses increased from approximately $451 million to $480 million, about a 6% increase. That was, the expenses increased across most all departments. I mean, it wasn't really one in particular, and it really is very similar to most of the governments we work with. I mean, every year things just increase in cost. Your total general revenues increased from approximately $350 million to $418 million, about a 19% increase. That's primarily related to the big increase in your property tax revenues. Your overall change in net position increased by approximately $63 million. The prior year change in net position was a decrease of about $6.6 million. The current year, you had an increase of about $57 million. So a big swing there, approximately $63 million. Next, we'll talk about the compliance reports. There's two compliance reports that are part of all governmental, well, most governmental audits. There's what we refer to as our Yellow Book report, which is a report on our tests of the county's internal controls and compliance with laws and regulations. We don't provide an opinion on internal controls and compliance. We pretty much provide negative assurance. If there are any issues that we found as a result of our testing, that would be brought up in that report. There's also the report on uniform guidance, which better known as your single audit report. So as part of a single audit, because you all expended more than $750,000 in federal funding in fiscal year 25, it was actually $29.7 million in federal funding that you all received and expended in that time period. You all were required to undergo a single audit. The programs that are tested, tested in detail, is done on a risk-based assessment. For fiscal year 25, we tested the Highway Planning and Construction Grant and the COVID-19 Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund Grant. As I mentioned previously, there are certain things that we as auditors are required to communicate to you all under the standards that guide us. And I'm just going to run through these quickly. I won't belabor any of them. There are significant accounting policies, of course, for all governments that are included within their financial statements. Management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. All of the significant accounting policies used by the county are described in the very first footnote of the financial statements. And all of the policies that are used by the county are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Also inherent in any audit are management judgments and accounting estimates. They're, like I said, an integral part of the financial statements that are prepared by management, and they're based on management's knowledge and experience about past and current events. Some of the examples are actuarial assumptions, depreciation, allowances for uncollectible accounts. We always look at management's estimates and determine whether or not we feel that they are reasonable, and we had no issues with the estimates used by management. We are required to communicate to you all that we receive full cooperation from the county's management and staff, no disagreements with them. There was no consultation that we're aware of with other accountants. We had no significant issues that were discussed with management that related to business conditions, plans, or strategies. We did have audit adjustments. Those were delivered to the County Finance Department, have been posted to their books and records. We did have one audit adjustment that is what we refer to as a past audit adjustment. It wasn't material to the overall financial statements, and it only really would have been recorded at the government-wide level when we were talking about looking at everything as a whole. There was a unrecorded finance purchase agreement for a fire truck that did not get appropriately recorded. So that was a past audit adjustment. The footnote disclosure of the financial statements really should be read, of course, in conjunction with looking at the financial statements themselves, and they are an integral part of the financial statements. And the process that management uses to accumulate all of the information, including those disclosures, is the same process that we see in most other governments that we work with. We are independent with regard to the county and the financial reporting process. A little bit of trend information here for your general fund. Again, this is just your general fund. You can see a 5-year history of fund balance. For fiscal year 2025, fund balance was approximately $90.9 million compared to 2024 of $74.7 million. Your property taxes increase was really the driving factor for the increase over the previous year. Property tax revenues increased about $15 million from the previous year. That was offset by increases in expenditures over most of the departments, but the increase in your property taxes outweighed those increasing expenses. There's a pie chart, your general fund revenues. These show the various types of revenues and dollar amounts here. You all are very typical of other county governments in Georgia, where property taxes are by far the largest source of revenues for the county, followed by other taxes such as sales tax and various other taxes. Charges for services follows closely behind that as well. Your expenditures, again, very typical percentage-wise of what we see with other county governments. The largest expenditure function is your courts and law enforcement, and that's courts, sheriff, jail. That's followed by public safety, which is your police and EMS, and also your general government expenditures. But again, the percentages there, and the larger expenditure functions are, like I said, very similar to what we see in other county governments. Any questions so far?
Board members, are there any questions at this time? All right.
Yes.
You got
Go
one?
ahead.
No.
Start it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. I do have one, just based off the last one when you said general fund expenditures. Is that based off of the budget amount, or is that a requested after the budget amount?
Okay, these amounts are your actual
The
amounts.
actuals?
The actuals. I know you all had an original budget, and then you all
Correct.
had final amended budget. There's a comparison of original final budgets compared to your actual within that comprehensive annual financial report. You can
Okay.
see the variances there.
My next one, you spoke at the beginning, cash and equivalent cash. What is equivalent cash?
So cash equivalents are anything that, in most cases, a cash equivalent would be like your certificates of deposit,
Okay.
90-day or less maturity. It could be money market accounts. It can be your local government investment pool.
So-
While you consider it an investment, it's pretty liquid, so it would be a cash equivalent.
So basically investment accounts of some way.
Right. I mean, it
Okay.
wouldn't encompass anything if you had anything like that. It wouldn't encompass anything like stocks.
Right, of
Yeah,
course.
but governments don't.
All righty.
Generally have
And
to-
also, can you go further into, you talked about the pension deficit? Elaborate on that somewhat. I wasn't
your
following. You
pension-
lost me really
I'm
quick on
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry. You're talking about the pension liability?
Yes, where you
Okay.
spoke about the pension deficit.
Right. So the pension most governments that have defined benefit pension plans, which you all have, you utilize an actuary every year to tell you how much you need to add to
Pension.
the plan. Your liability, as of today, to pay out all of the currently retired employees, as well as there's also a portion included in that liability for current employees that are still working. That liability is determined by actuaries, and it is a tremendous amount. It is a tremendous amount for you all, for, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, all of the large governments. It is significant. You also have a liability for other post-employment benefit plans, because you all do offer plans to, you do offer like health insurance for retirees after they retire. That number also is determined by an actuary based on number of people, a lot of different actuarial assumptions. So that is also a tremendous liability. Some governments choose to fund those liabilities and actually have money set aside for that. Like for your OPEB plan, you all do not have anything set aside for that. There's just a liability out there. You do what a lot of governments do, and you do on a pay-as-you-go basis. For your pension liability, you all do have, of course, assets to offset that liability.
Okay. So when you speak of the deficit, I guess I'm thinking in terms of if we were going to have to pay out 100%, we don't have enough. We're short. Or
Correct.
So that's over the life of it for 100%.
Right.
Okay.
So if everything ended today,
Correct.
more than likely, no, you would not. But that's not really, I guess, realistic. So, you all are for the OPEB plan, you all are on a pay-as-you-go basis. You are paying the liabilities every year as they come up, the current liabilities. There's no problem with that. And that's what a lot of governments do. There are a few that, like I said, are setting aside money for that, but many are on a pay-as-you-go basis.
And is this a healthy accounting principle, practice, I should say?
To not fund?
Yes.
I don't know if healthy would be the word. It's an acceptable practice. I'd say there are more governments that don't fund it than that do.
Great. Thank you.
All right, board members, any other questions at this time?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Haynes.
Under general fund expenditures,
Yes.
you have courts and law enforcement, then you have public safety. So
these functional categories are set up by the State of Georgia Department of Audit. So under courts and law enforcement, they include all of your courts, your superior, state, probate, all that. They also include the sheriff's department and the jail underneath that category.
that's what you're calling the law enforcement.
Correct.
Okay, and separate from the public safety.
Right. Public safety is your police, EMS, a couple other
I was
things in
just
there.
wondering with that law
Yes, ma'am.
enforcement and public safety. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Distinction.
Any other questions? All right. You can go on.
Okay. We did also have some what we consider findings as part of the overall audit process, and then we also had recommendations. And the recommendations are just that. They're recommendations to try to make things a little bit more efficient or, a little bit more controls. But as far as the findings go, several of them were repeat findings. This particular one with the Sheriff's Department, we have mentioned this several times in the past. There's an escrow account maintained by the Sheriff's Department with about $285,000 balance that's just been kind of sitting there. It's been there for over 12 years. I believe it's the result of probably back 12 years ago, some accounting issues. All of that money generally would have been paid out at some point to either the county or third parties. But anyway, this $285,000, like I said, it's over 12 years old. We're just recommending that the Sheriff's Department, I guess, confer with the attorney as far as what's the best way to dispose of those funds. I mean, I can't tell you what to do. That's really an attorney's role to determine what to do. But it's just sitting there, so we're saying that probably best to take some action on it at some point. The second item also relates to the Sheriff's Department and their financial activities. So there's several bank accounts that are maintained by the Sheriff's Office, and the State of Georgia Uniform Chart of Accounts defines these type accounts as special revenue funds. And they're supposed to be recorded with all other county special revenue funds as part of the financial statements. So we're recommending that these different bank accounts, that some sort of an accounting for these is provided to the Finance Department. At least, monthly would be great, but at least at the end of the year, so that they can account for these within the annual comprehensive financial report. Let's see. The next item, and this pertains to the Development Authority, which is not, we do not audit a Development Authority. Another auditor audits that, but they had this finding, and so we have to bring it to your attention. But for fiscal year 25, it was discovered that there were bank accounts, a building, a lease, and bonds payable in the authority's name that had not been previously reported. According to their auditors, the cause of this oversight may be attributed to inadequate internal controls over the financial reporting process and lack of reconciliations that could have identified these unreported accounts. The recommendations here, the first one, to immediately include the unreported accounts in the financial statements, which that was done. But their auditors recommended, that management of the Development Authority review and enhance internal controls and implement reconciliation processes to make sure that, these type accounts don't go unaccounted for. The fourth finding related to the unrecorded finance purchase that I mentioned before, we considered it a past adjustment, but it was discovered towards the end of the audit that there had been a finance purchase of a fire truck that had not been reported. And so, it can happen. I mean, when in governmental accounting, when you have finance purchases, you record at that time both the whole expenditure, and you record an offsetting source of other financing source, so they net each other out. So it really had no effect at that point on, I guess you could say, the bottom line, but it is something that is required to be reported as such. So it's all been handled and recorded in there at this point. And the last finding we had related to deferred revenue. So prior to fiscal year 25, you all had received, of course, a lot of upfront money, under ARPA funds, basically. And as you spent it, it was recorded as a liability or as a deferred revenue when it was received. As you spent it, it was recorded as revenue. Well, when we came in to do the audit, there was still $10 million sitting in there as deferred revenue, when really it had actually all been spent. So it was about a $10 million adjustment that actually increased the revenues of that fund, but because of the dollar size, the $10 million, we had to report it as a finding.
Okay.
And then the only finding that we had when it came to the single audit, the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, we had the same finding in fiscal year 24. There are quarterly reports that are required to be submitted and by certain due dates, and the report for the quarter ended December 31st, 2024 was not submitted by the due date of January 31st, 2025. It's just that one of the 4 reports. Unfortunately, we as auditors don't have that judgment to say, well, it's not that material and nobody said anything about it at the federal government. We're required to report it if there is something that was not timely reported. So, and I believe that most of these funds have been spent at this point. So, which everyone is, at least on the auditor side, is glad to see this pass, because it's been a nightmare to account for. The other items that we have are, like I said, these are just what we call management points. And they're just that. They're just recommendations. There's no finding here. But we do have a recommendation that the county adopt a capitalization policy for infrastructure. Without a policy, it's really hard to decide, is this repair and maintenance, or is this actually a new infrastructure item? Like, is this repair and maintenance for a road, or is this a new road or a significantly improved road? So when you have that policy in place, it's much easier to make that determination. One of the findings that we've had in the previous year about probate court, the bank account currently holds excess funds in that account. It's not a material amount to the financial statements as a whole, but for several years there's been excess funds in their bank account. Of course, the probate court operates like most courts. Everything they take in is dispersed out. They don't have anything extra because these departments are funded by the general fund, the probate court's expenditures. So everything they take in is supposed to be distributed out, either to a third party or to the county. And there's been each year about an excess of about $25,000 in there. So we just recommend, kind of like we did with the sheriff's department, just have the county attorney look into that and what's the best way to dispose of those funds. We did notice in the sheriff's office there are a lot of old outstanding checks that are in excess of 5 years old in several of the accounts. Under the state of Georgia escheat laws, anything over 5 years old is supposed to be turned over to the state. So we recommend that someone look into the proper formatting, the proper forms and disposition to the state of these amounts. I think everyone will find once you get this money turned over to the state, it's a lot less reconciling items every month when you come to do the bank reconciliations. So again, we just recommend that they follow the escheat laws under the state of Georgia. The tax commissioner's office, several years ago when when the tax commissioner's office was switching banks, they ended up opening new accounts and they still had the old accounts to disperse out of. Well, at this point, there's still 2 bank accounts being maintained, two for property taxes and 2 for their escrow account. Our recommendation is let's go ahead and consolidate these into just one account. It'll make reconciliations and disbursements, I would think, much easier by just consolidating these into one single account for each. Also with the tax commissioner's office, they also have some outstanding checks in excess of 5 years old that need to be remitted to the state under the escheat laws. And then finally, with the tax commissioner's office, segregation of duties. The chief tax accountant is involved in multiple activities relating to cash disbursements processes. That's because just of the general nature and the number of people that are there, it's really difficult to completely segregate good duties, and we understand that. We have seen nothing indicative of any issues. We just have to make you all aware that there is a little bit of a segregation of duties there. Clerk of court registry accounts, both magistrate and superior court. There are reports that are generated for us each year that let us know what's still in these registry accounts, what money the magistrate court and the superior court are still holding. And the past few years, every time we get those, they're still listed on there are things that have been paid out. And we're able to go back to our prior notes and strike those through, but we're recommending that the superior magistrate court offices update those reports. Classification of capital assets. A lot of times, you'll have certain projects that are ongoing, and once those projects are completed, you move that project from construction in progress to an actual asset. And so there's some timing there where there seems to be a timing lag in some cases in moving those from construction in progress where it's not being depreciated to an actual asset where it is being depreciated. So we're recommending that as soon as those projects are closed out and completed, that they get moved immediately and depreciation begin at that point. And that's all of our recommendations. I flew through those quickly, and I'm glad to discuss them further if you all have any questions on those.
Board members, are there any questions on the recommendations at this time?
So my question isn't for you, Ms. Lipson, it's for this CFO, Mr. Jackson. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so now that you hear the findings, the repeat findings and the repeat comments,
because I'm not sure if these offices or departments were ever informed of their findings or the comments in the past. My ask is that I'm not sure who you will assign to do this, but I would mostly importantly, contact these offices and departments and let them know the repeat comments and findings. And then who you have assigned to make sure that when the audit is done this year, we don't have the findings. Will it be, what are they, the internal audit office, or who would do that?
Yes, so we do have our internal audit team doing some investigations. They're looking into some of these findings and doing outreach to some of the offices to address them. I've even had some conversations with some departments about some of these findings, but internal audit is leading those efforts to address those findings.
Okay, and then also, because I saw a lot of it is just policies, lack of policies. I don't think anyone on the board will argue to say that please come to us if you guys see that there's a policy that needs to be in place to prevent this in the future. So we're open.
Absolutely.
Thank you, that was it.
Is there any more discussion at this time?
Okay.
Thank you.
And just real quick, we have a lot of our governmental clients all across the Southeast that need assistance with other things besides just annual audits. And we have teams set up, advisory service teams that I'm an auditor, I'm not an advisory service team member. But we do offer a lot of different things if you all ever need that kind of advisory services. These are services related to strategy, operational efficiency, transformation, and performance measurement. We also have IT and cybersecurity services. Again, definitely not me, but a lot of different IT and cybersecurity solutions that we offer. We can come in and take a look at the IT that you all have, the cyber, different cybersecurity framework engagements, penetration testing, if that's ever anything that you all need. And we can do this and still remain independent to be your auditors. And finally, and I won't belabor this certainly, but there are new GASB pronouncements that come out every single year that our governments are required to adopt. For fiscal year 26, there are a couple. Statement 103, financial reporting model improvements, and Statement 104, disclosure of certain capital assets. We have held our quarterly training seminars that are offered, to all of our clients. If there's ever anything you all are interested in, just, please give your emails to us, and we'll be glad to cue you in on those as well. But we'll be working with the county to make sure that these are implemented appropriately. And then, of course, there's other projects that they never stop, looking at things, wanting to make things, as they say, better. But there are different projects that they have ongoing that they're thinking about and talking about that are not yet standards.
I have one more question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry, y'all. This letter to the library system, are you familiar, can you explain that? I have it here if you need a copy. It was a letter that you guys wrote to the library system. Can you hand it to me real quick? Oh, right here. Okay, you got it.
Yes, this is the our agreed upon procedures report that the Georgia Public Library System requires that the Clayton County Public Library has done each year. So it's Clayton County, I think, is one of two counties where the library is actually a department of the general fund. So they're included in your overall audit, where a lot of libraries are kind of standalone and they have their own audit. Since your library is a department, the Georgia Public Library System requires them to have agreed upon procedures where we look at some of their items, and it's a list of procedures that they provide, the Georgia Public Library System provides. So they require that these procedures be performed each year and a report be provided. So that's what this is.
Thank you.
As I mentioned previously, we do have quarterly continuing education. I know most of members of the finance department do attend usually these quarterly continuing education, they do get CPE credit. And again, they're only offered to our clients. And that covers it. Unless you have questions, I'm more than happy to address. Or if you think of something after this evening, please reach out. Myself, Ryan, any of us are happy to try to address your questions.
All right. Any other questions at this time? All right, well, thank you so much, and we
Thank
appreciate
you.
that update on the audit. All right. Next will be item 2, Development Authority update. Am I at the right one? Wait a minute, let's get- I got another one. Hold on. I'm sorry, data center update. This must be the old one. Mr. GK?
Madam Chair, Commissioners,
I know this not the right
good
one.
evening. My presentation this evening is to give you an update on the research we've done on data centers.
Okay.
Just a background on data centers. When the initial data center in Ellenwood came online, there were lots of discussion, not just in Clayton County, but all over the country. And we moved, the board approved that's a moratorium. We came back and did a first extension of it. Then now we are here to ask for a second extension. The reason being for the extension is that we are listening in the metro to see what others are doing, ARC doing a study, and some of the conferences I've been to, our data centers have been featured. So we're asking for a second extension that will expire December 27th of this year. The hope is that before we get to the 27th, we will have an ordinance in place. But the process to get to that ordinance, next steps will be a draft ordinance that we're going to send for legal review. We do follow our process to initiate the text amendment, then proceed to advertise for public hearing. Our general focus on this research is because we don't have any ordinance right now or way of regulating data centers in the county. So one of the things we are looking at is to establish some base definitions to guide that implementation. Look at different types of data centers and development standards. Identify appropriate zoning classifications, best practices, always have in mind public health, safety, and welfare, both for our residents and businesses. And also some of the things we picked up from others, looking at community reinvestment. But this is just a general view. But my next slide shows in-depth areas that the ordinance will cover. We started from pre-construction analysis, plan and environmental assessment, looked at closed loop water requirements, and other ways of handling that are efficient, enhanced buffering and landscape, separation restrictions from residential and other data centers, water and power supply, definitely have a conditional use permit will be required. Design standards is key. And my next slide, you start seeing what we are looking at. Decommissioning and assurance requirements, because what happens is when these huge buildings get abandoned, how do we decommission or repurpose them into other uses? The ordinance will address those. again, newly adopted definitions just to make sure we are managing the influx of this, and community investment initiatives. So these are the things that the ordinance will address. We also looked specifically at architectural standards and considerations, looking into LEED building materials and design. That is for efficiency and sustainability. Look at flex office designs. You will see an example in my next slide of what we mean by flex office designs. An enhanced requirements for building facades that are actually visible from the road. So these are the type of design we are contemplating in terms of data centers in the county. Make sure they look good, and if you look at, we looked at California, looked at Virginia, Oregon, and we have one back close to us in Lithia Springs. So start implementing things like this to make it eligible so that they can fit in. And this slide, I know, might draw comments. Data centers are not completely bad. There is a need for them. Our issue is how do we manage them coming into. If you look at where computing is going, it's needed. We haven't even gotten, we got AI, we haven't even gotten into quantum computing. That's another layer of this. So we are looking at the benefits of it. Economic growth and tax revenue, infrastructure and energy development. For example, Georgia Power requires data centers to come to them and make improvements to the grid based on the request that the data center is seeking. So that's an improvement to infrastructure that is paid for upfront. And in those cases, we will require them to get clearances from the power and water authorities before it even gets to you all to approve. And community investment potential, green spaces, public amenities, and job training programs. We want to make sure that workforce development plays a huge part in what we're doing in this area, and support for advanced industries through technology and digital service. The here is you're going to have ancillary type business developments that will come in our area as a result of data centers. No, one more. So, in terms of how we're looking at this, how do we manage and regulate this? We are suggesting and recommending when this code is written, that they will be located in light industrial, heavy industrial, warehouse district, and industrial parks. And also with a caveat of considering how close they are to established neighborhoods. So you have to be within a certain distance from an established neighborhood to have this. So that is the end of my presentation on data centers.
Board members, are there any questions at this time?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Thank you for bringing this because, you know, we always hear the negatives. So I was thinking of perhaps at some point having someone to come in with the pros and cons and all, and you did touch on that, so thank you so much. And I paid particular interest in about the community investment potential. And I'm thinking not only with the data centers, but any company that does business with us in Clayton County, that there should be some kind of community investment. I've gone to so many counties for different reasons, either with my grandkids or whatever, visiting and seeing some of these names of businesses that come here and get thousands, millions of our dollars, but they never put anything back. So thank you for that. So not only would we consider that for data centers, but also for just businesses in general. I figure if we giving our money out, then, okay, thank you. But thank you. I was gonna ask for somebody to come and give us, you know, again, the pros and cons. So I appreciate your report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
And you gave us the DeKalb County Data Center text amendment? Okay.
That's for me.
Okay.
That's,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions at this time?
Oh, I have a couple.
You can
Commissioner
go.
Davis, you sure you don't want to go first?
Go ahead.
All right. Okay, so thank you for this presentation. I know that there had been a few questions at previous commission meetings where the public was asking when they were going to be able to see the results of the study from the data center moratorium. So thank you for this presentation. I think one of the biggest questions that I have received in District 1 is around why there was no similar proposal before the data center on Williamson Road was approved. I mean, I see on the last slide that you have data centers will be proposed in only light and heavy industrial areas, and District 1 by far has the most concentration, the largest concentration of light industrial and heavy industrial. So if there are any additional data centers that would be, you know, brought before Clayton County, it would most likely impact District 1. And so folks are trying to act, like folks are asking, why wasn't this conversation had before the first data center, the one on Williamson Road in Ellenwood PUD, before that was approved?
There are no good answers in terms of why wasn't this done before then. Data centers recently exploded in the national sphere in terms of discussion. So it's not that we were behind, it was just that the nation never focused heavily on it. And because there are counties in Georgia that have 5, 4, 6 data centers on them already. So the idea is, for whatever reason, it become a national flashpoint.
Sure. I
So-
mean, the increase of artificial intelligence use,
Yeah,
large
so,
language
and
models.
as you mentioned, AI, nobody talked about AI openly the way it's being talked about right now 5 years ago. So there is a number of factors that triggered us to go, and also the complaints we had from Ellenwood, that data center, that triggered us to go do this work and continue to do them, because I'm waiting to see what ARC will say, which they're going to be doing hopefully this summer, and other folks have their own. We gleaned from what others are doing also, and figure out the best way to do it in our county. Like you mentioned, the way the county developed over 30 years ago, you have those classifications I mentioned in the core of the county. You have heavy industrial, light industrial in the core of the county. So we are retrofitting things to protect the residents, at the same time be mindful of how our county developed over time.
Sure, and I hear you, and I know that, you know, there are data centers, the influx of data centers in Georgia is in part because of state incentives for the data centers to develop in Georgia. But DeKalb County has been debating bringing a data center to Lovelace Place for almost a year now, and they haven't approved it until their planning department has gone over this text amendment. They've had multiple meetings where they brought the community in. I mean, I've sat in 2 of their meetings where they have a packed auditorium where they've had conversations before any data center was ever approved by the board. And I talked about before how the moratorium that I introduced not only prevented additional data centers and, you know, was the beginning of this study, but there were 5 other data centers that were under permitted use in the Ellenwood PUD, which meant that they could have been approved without the board's approval at all. So I can't see how it was an accident that there were data centers that were approved and built here in the county. And we're just now having a conversation about the regulations, where they will be built, and asking for community input.
I know I didn't use the word an accident. It was not an accident because that would be intellectually on my part saying that I neglected what I'm supposed to do. So I'm not buying into it's an accident. It wasn't an accident, it was discussed. But again, let me repeat, how prominent the discussion of data centers are now is different from what it was at the time. We did look at it, we knew what it was, but we never went in to do the in-depth study that we're doing right now. Yeah, but it was discussed, and some of your residents in District 1 was in the room when this thing was being discussed. So, and
Before my time, I can't speak to that.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I was there. They were there. Some of the community leaders at the time, the residents were in the room, but to some extent, I don't think everyone in the room knew that data center would become a national discussion topic. So that's my best answer to why what we are doing right now wasn't done before then.
Okay. So another question is around the data center ordinance general focus around addressing health, safety, and welfare of residents and businesses. Can you just go into a little bit more detail about what research or how you plan to study the health, and safety aspects of a data center's impact on the county?
The health and safety and welfare of residents in this area will be based on the general complaints we have in our county, across the metro, and nationwide. There is a discussion of the environmental impacts of data center. Those impacts, it's what we're going to research and talk to any regulatory agency that have to do those environmental impacts. Some folks talk about electrical wavelengths. There's a whole lot of discussion as to how much current is going through the grid, what it will do to humans and all that. Everybody have an angle to it. So we are waiting on our regional planning agency to chime in. We're going to look at EPD, EPA, and ask the questions. Are these concerns founded, or how can we do it? Example, if you have an issue, some of the issue we're hearing, then that's why we went to architecture. How can you build the walls of this building so that whatever that we could perceive to be harmful to us will not be transmitted outside? So there's a lot of discussion as to how to do it. So that's how we plan on doing it. Okay. Finding out what are the environmental issues, what is fear, and what are facts.
And then the last question I have is just around community input and what that process is going to look like. Will those look like public meetings that are held around the county, or just how will Clayton County residents be able to voice their opinions and their concerns before this ordinance is brought before the board?
As you know, we have 3 public participation staffs in our zoning process. The data center will require a conditional use permit. So when you look at community, that's information meeting.
Oh, but not for this, the CUP, for this actual ordinance. The presentation said that there's an item on the agenda for June 16th for the board to extend the data center moratorium through the end of December.
Yes.
But that the board would also be reviewing an ordinance for any additional data centers. And so I'm just curious about what that public input will look like for community residents to give input on that ordinance before it's brought back to the board.
Once it comes out of legal review, to make sure we're not exposing the county to liability, I will send the ordinance to every commissioner. Then you share it in your community meetings, because I don't have any other vehicle to get it to the citizens, but to come through you to do it.
But like a public meeting, like the city, how DeKalb has had meetings and presentations. I brought an example of what they've done in Athens, Clark County. There's so many questions and so many people want to feel heard around this area. I'm just asking, if there's gonna be a large venue for people to come out and to voice their concerns.
I hear you. If it's the will of the board, yes, we'll arrange those meetings.
Okay.
Be it by districts or however it could be done, so that we can, I should do it. And I think Commissioner was referring to outside of our zoning process, because I was explaining the 3 times we have public participation. And the community information meeting, the zoning advisory group, and the board they are all public meetings.
Yes.
But if it's the pleasure of the board to hold separate meetings in your districts, I will be there for each one.
Okay. I would like for us to have
Okay.
a specific
let me know
community
when.
meeting.
Let me know when, and I'll be there.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Njike, for this. Yeah, so one of the questions is data centers have always been around. They were called server rooms in previous, and you could put them in the office park. That's why they were not discussed. So we do understand that. The other thing, one of the things I'd like you to include in this, though, and just be cognizant of, is when we begin to look at the proposed zoning districts, is to begin to look at it from different data center types in conjunction with residential proximities. Because not all kind of data centers can go, they should be, for health reasons and noise pollution reasons, a certain distance away from residential areas. So we could begin to include that with that would be healthy.
Okay.
We have to put one in the residential area.
All right, board members, is there any more discussion at this time?
Oh, one other thing.
All right.
And also on the decommissioning process, where you have that piece in there, begin to think of it from a standpoint of how you're going to test the surrounding water and land for radiation and things of that nature.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be barriers faced by justice, impacted residents, and potential policy considerations. Bar business.
Good evening, Commissioners, and we'll make sure we keep this as brief as possible, as we know the actual meeting is about to begin. Hi, I'm Dominique Grant, a resident of District 1 and the Managing Director over at Bar Business. Just quickly who Bar Business is. We are justice impacted, led, and rooted in healing, resourcing, and building power with our people. Our focuses are organizing, policy advocacy, and civic engagement. The civic engagement piece ensures that justice-impacted people and formerly incarcerated people are aware of their voting rights and their voices and what that means to be heard. Our policy advocacy work looks similar to this. In organizing, we do a lot of base building and working within community to ensure that our people who are justice-impacted have access to resources and the things that they need. So what does it mean to be justice impacted? Ultimately, the term means people that are directly impacted by the criminal legal system, families who are carrying the emotional, financial, and caregiving weight of incarceration, because when a person is incarcerated, their family has to go somewhere. Residents who are trying to work, live, parent, heal, and contribute to the after their contact with the system, and Clayton County community members who should not be treated like their worst day is their whole life. And unfortunately for Clayton County and for the state of Georgia, this is not a small group of people. This is our workforce, our families, our neighbors, and our county. So I am going to pass it to my colleagues to further talk about some statistical data that we have, but I just wanted to explain what protected class means and what it is that we're looking for. So ultimately, because our goal is to build power for justice-impacted people, we are looking for the idea of protections for people who have been impacted by the system in regards to employment, so no blanket exclusions from jobs just because of a record. Housing, so no automatic denial of a home without an individualized review. And public accommodations, which means equal access to resources and public space and faces. This idea is not new. Atlanta passed this ordinance in 2022, and there are similar criminal record protections that exist in places including Wisconsin, DC, and 15 other states.
Thank you, Dom. How's everybody doing today? Takai Tinsley, Campaign and Organizing Manager at Bar Business, and former resident of Jonesboro, Mount Zion area of Clayton County. So like Dominique was mentioning, the problem that we're discussing is permanent punishment. We call it permanent punishment because for a lot of this community, past serving their time in prison or jail, they are still being punished economically and culturally, especially in Clayton County. Too many people complete their sentences and are still being blocked from jobs, housing, licensing services, and stability in general. There are over 44,000 state and federal collateral consequences that restrict access to employment, housing, education, and voting. And there's also over 70% of cataloged collateral consequences that are connected to employment barriers. And there's 27% that is estimated unemployed among formerly incarcerated people nationally. That number may seem low to some, but there's a big portion of this percentage that does reside in the south side of Clayton County. When legal barriers follow people forever, families lose income, employers lose workers, and this county carries the cost of instability. I want us to harp in on that fact that Clayton County carries more of the burden than the community we're addressing today when it comes to the economic impact. So, in general, your workforce, your public dollars, and your housing stability are negatively affected by not incentivizing community access for justice-impacted individuals. More residents are able to compete for jobs and support local employers through this legislation. Stable work and housing reduce the conditions that lead people back into costly jail and court systems, as well as families are less likely to be pushed into homelessness or crisis because of old records. Lastly, when residents can earn and stay housed, that money circulates back into Clayton County, back into the community. The bottom line here is that Clayton County can lower barriers without lowering standards. The ordinance requires fair, individualized review instead of blanket exclusion. To sum all this up, we're giving Clayton County a big opportunity to lead for Georgia and through Georgia. And a big question for you all in the crowd might be, why Clayton County, why now? It's not a unknown fact or opinion to most that Clayton County is already carrying the regional impact of displacement, reentry, transportation barriers, housing pressure, and criminalization. Many Clayton County residents are directly or indirectly impacted by incarceration, probation, parole, detention, or reentry. When people are locked out of jobs and housing, the burden lands on families, local services, and the county budget. With major regional events bringing more development pressure, Clayton must protect residents from being pushed further out of opportunity. This ordinance that we're proposing gives the county a proactive tool to support public safety through stability, not exclusion. So Clayton can really lead in Georgia by saying accountability should not become a lifetime sentence. I'm gonna pass it over to my colleague Corey to tell you more about his lived experience in this situation.
How you doing? I'm Corey Thompson. I'm a community organizer at Bar Business. I work with reentry every day. And I'm directly justice impacted myself. I just got out of prison like a year ago. Fortunately, Bar Business gave me an opportunity where I can make livable wage. But I deal with people every day returning. And I brought like a van load of people twice out here to Forest Park to a job fair. And when I took them to the job fair, H&R came directly and told me that those guys I bought, those men, those women I brought were not gonna get hired because of their criminal background. So it had nothing to do with their qualifications, their skills. They came prepared. I had resumes wrote for them. They came dressed for success. I mean, they just got excluded because their job didn't believe in second chances. So I just say, when you have a working community, you have a safe community. And so it's a lot of other things that exclude people, and these employment exclusion. I brought a friend of mine to come speak on some employment exclusions he's had.
Good evening. My name is Tad Vassell. I am a small business owner, justice impacted, and I pay rent in Clayton County. As Mr. Thompson said, basically, public safety begins with economic opportunities. And if we don't get it right, these issues bleed into our communities. For a person coming home, being able to get a livable wage job is one of the surest ways to minimize their return back to your jail. I've organized around the Clayton County Jail on numerous levels, but as it relates to job employment and economic opportunities, this is one of the sure ways for an individual not to return to your system and be a burden to your tax basis. So with that, I would like to see this ordinance passed, because it is one of many steps that will help lower the tax burden that your county suffers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we ask y'all for questions, Corey has one last thing to close us out, and he wanted to say one last thing.
Okay, I just want to let you know that statistically, 33%, if out 8 months, they return back to prison without employment. Out a year, it increases to 50%. Out 3 years, it increases to 77%. So I'm just saying, if you're trying to cut down recidivism, I mean, this policy makes sense economically and publicly.
Thank you, commissioners, for hearing us out, and I'll leave us open for questions. I also brought one-pagers with the statistical data that we provided today and our information.
Okay. So those one pages. Okay.
I have a
All right,
question.
Commissioner Allen.
Well, thank you guys for being here today, and to Mr. Tinsley, who has been emailing us, the Board of Commissioners, since February of earlier this year to get on the agenda to present this. So thank you for your adamant consistency. But do you guys have a copy of the ordinance?
Yes, we do. So we have a copy of multiple ordinances. We have a copy of the one that was passed in Atlanta. We also have a copy of the one that was passed in New Orleans. Typically, these ordinances, and I don't have them on me, but I can get them to you all. But typically, these ordinances also include us coming up with a Human Rights Council that allows community members to come and share their experiences of being discriminated against and finding ways for accountability to ensure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, because I just need clarity on exactly what you guys are asking the board for. Is to like change our hiring policies, or I just need clarity around that.
Yeah, so ultimately, our ask is for it to be illegal to deny someone the opportunity to housing, employment, or any additional resources after they have served their sentence. What that means is we're not saying, oh, if a person has a particular record that won't allow them in a certain area, allow them to live there, or if a person's charge or offense falls under a certain area, just let them go work there. But what we are asking, that is, we have community members that are willing to build transportation companies to help employ people in the county, that they shouldn't be closed out from the opportunity to either obtain their business license, CDL, or space within the community to build their business.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Hambrick.
Well, and thank you for that, because I want to see a copy of the ordinance also. Sometime back, I think the state or somebody passed a law or some laws regarding, hiring and giving people that have been incarcerated chances or opportunities. And I think, and I'm not sure, and Chuck, maybe you know, as far as voting.
Yes, so
And
yes,
all.
there were two laws that have been changed under the prior governor. So one, yes, voting laws did change that allowed people who have felonies in Georgia but are no longer on probation or parole the ability to vote. Secondly, the other one was ban the box, which made it illegal on a state level and had already been done on a federal level for people to ban employment, but that isn't implemented in counties. And there is no additional enforcement besides going to the EEOC, which is questionable under this current administration, what that would look like. So ultimately, we're giving counties in Georgia the opportunity to implement this on their own and create their own economic budget and opportunities to grow. As we know, our counties are typically responsible for finding the money for additional programs or things that citizens may need on a regular basis.
Right. Because I was particularly concerned when the young man mentioned about taking the people, the van of people to apply at the employment, job opportunities or whatever, that they were turned away. So I'm.
And, oh, sorry, go ahead.
it just sounds like that's illegal.
Ultimately, on the state level, it is, but if it's not reported, there isn't much that can be done about it, and it's easier for us to go through a county level if we had a council or commission or some sort of process that would allow citizens on a local level to come speak about their discrepancies or issues that they're having, and then either it be brought up to the state or Clayton County would be responsible for rectifying it.
Well, one quick thing, and I'm done. Well, state law, I think, would supersede the county anyway, county law, county ordinances and all. And even if there is a county ordinance, I'm just trying to figure out how, what process
Yes.
A group would go through to report that kind of thing.
So to be clear, with protected class, we're not referring only to employment and being a box. We're also referring to housing.
Right,
Exactly.
all of that.
And in the state of Georgia, there aren't any protected classes, period. So being a box was a piece of the work that was done to say, hey, we can't automatically deny you once that application is filled out, but that doesn't stop employers from firing people once they do a background check, regardless of whether or not it aligns with exactly the position that the person is applying for. Secondly, what that would look like on a county level, and similarly to what the city of Atlanta has done, and what Augusta is working out as well, because we are out there trying to push for the same thing. It would give you all the opportunity to decide or appoint or find people in the community that are interested in these issues, hear people out and fill grievances to assure that if there is a business that denies someone employment, if there is a landlord that's denied someone housing, or if they're being predatory because someone has a criminal record but an 850 credit score, there is some accountability piece within that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, board members, are there any other questions at this time?
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you, Commissioner Allen, and thank you all of the commissioners.
Awesome job, thank you. Next will be the airport CID expansion. Mr. GK?
It's after 6:30. Okay. No, that's not.
I saw it on.
It's on mine. So
It will come next week.
it'll come next week? Okay, we'll hold it to the end.
Okay.
It's on mine. All right, next will be, now I have item 5 with the 2026 salary compensation. Kevin Roberts. I must have a different. You got to flip over.
I have a GK for 5.
Yeah, I had a GK for 5, but they said they're not doing, I had a GK for 4.
Oh, you have, okay, you're the opposite.
No, this one. Okay. That's right.
And then after that is FIFA, correct? Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board and community. I just want to revisit the salary comparison that I sent this board earlier this year in January. I think some things have changed, so I wanted to come back before the board and just update you on the changes that I've observed, and I want to make some recommendations. So with that, the changes that I've seen indicates that our compensation packages for public safety have become less competitive since my original submission. That being said, you see here that the number of officers that we've hired this year is smaller than the average number hired per month. Last year we hired 63 with an average of 5.25 officers hired every month. This year we're averaging about 4.6. As it relates to attrition, our attrition rate has reduced, yet I'm concerned that this trend will not continue as the gap between our compensation and other departments widens. These are the metropolitan agencies that we regularly compete with for our prime public safety candidates. As you look at the salary comparison, we are near the bottom compared to those agencies. DeKalb, Atlanta PD, Fayette County SO, Cobb County PD, Henry County PD, and Gwinnett. Moving on, these are the South Metro city agencies that we compete with for applicants. Once again, we're near the bottom in that comparison as well. Fulton County PD, East Point PD, Fayetteville, South Fulton, College Park, Union City, Peachtree City, Stockbridge, and Hampton. The northern metropolitan Atlanta city agencies we compete with for applicants, same thing. We're at the bottom compared to those agencies. Sandy Springs, Chamblee, Alpharetta, Brookhaven, Johns Creek, Dorville, and Gainesville PD. Coming home, within the boundaries of Clayton County, these are the city agencies that we compete with. We are not near the bottom. We're in the middle. That's not satisfactory for me. That's a problem for me. No city police department in Clayton County has the call volume that we have, yet Jonesboro Police Department and Forest Park Police Department pay more than Clayton County Police Department. I've lost officers to Forest Park Police Department during my tenure as chief. Recently, the Jonesboro chief has made me aware that he's received inquiries from officers under my command since they implemented their salary increase. Here you will see the notable incentives used by other agencies to maintain their employees. You'll see incentives such as shift differential, hiring incentives, tuition reimbursement, milestone pay, which is the equivalent to our previous longevity pay. We don't offer any of these initiatives. But it's not just the police officers. Here you will see our dispatchers are near the bottom of the compensation chart as well. We've hired personnel from Atlanta that came to our dispatch center and they couldn't handle it. Yeah, the big city of Atlanta, we can get a dispatcher from the city, bring them to Clayton County Police Department's dispatch, and they have gone back to Atlanta. Why? The demands we're placing on our dispatchers far surpass what dispatchers in other larger agencies have to do. What do I mean by that? They have positions dedicated to simply call taking and dispatching. So if a dispatcher comes from APD to Clayton County, when they hit that dispatch floor, they got to do them both. We got special people in our E911 center, and if you have not been in there to see them work, you would understand if you stood there behind them for just a few minutes, and there's no way they should be at the bottom of this chart. They do their job at a very high level. And as I said, those are the agencies that also have multiple dispatch responsibilities. They either have more people or lower call volume. We don't have either. We got less people and higher call volume. It's problematic. Not just dispatchers and police officers. You see here our animal control officers are in the middle of this pay chart, which is good. But you also know as a Board of Commissioners, we have an unusually high level of scrutiny that follows our animal control facility that creates a high level of stress, not only for the officers, but also oftentimes that comes to this very board. I would ask that the board considers that any pay incentive will go a long way to elevating the quality of people that we have and to help us with our vacancies in that arena. I'm gonna pause for a minute because I brought my public safety brother with me, Chief Sweat, who has a similar challenge that he wants to speak with. There he is. Thank you, sir.
So, thank you, Chief, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Commissioners. Given that we have parity across our public safety pay scale, which is a good thing, I really want to state that. It is a good thing. Some of the challenges that Chief Roberts has are the very same challenges that I have when we look at our fire and EMS. So once again, in 2025, we hired 79 new personnel, and approximately 60 personnel were separated for various reasons. Hiring attrition rate was 6.84. So far in 2026, we just began our new recruit class, was 34 individuals that started 4 weeks ago. However, thus far in 26, I've already lost 19, where I'm looking at 11.4. Reasons would vary from retirements, resignations, terminations, and disqualifications, but also the majority or a large portion of that who simply have chosen to go other places. First up's jurisdictional salary comparison. Kind of looking at it, Fayette County by far is superior and someone that I compete with on a daily basis. While we are not the lowest, however, we're toward the bottom. Once again, you see the 51,992 is the exact same starting salary as a police recruit. We do gain a little leverage as we get toward the further certifications, such as paramedic and paramedic firefighters. However, the starting base salary to recruit new employees into the organization is simply not comparable when we look at the metro as a whole. South Metro, once again, Fayette County's at the top. What's interesting is you see Peachtree City coming in kind of second. They have a higher recruiting pay, but they kind of filter off in the middle. I've lost several folks to Peachtree City over the last 24 months. Simply going back to a comment that Chief Roberts made, we are on track to run 62,000 calls in the calendar year 2026, and we also provide fire and EMS protection. Looking at that starting salary of 51,992, our employees can go to Peachtree City, who does not provide EMS, who does not have a call volume of 60,000, make more money, and basically do less work. Looking at the North Metro, once again, we are almost at the bottom. Sandy Springs, Alpharetta. Kind of going down to the center, I lined my presentation up to meet Chief Roberts. So Brookhaven and Chimley have their own individual police departments. However, DeKalb County provides their fire and EMS. So that is how I listed those out. Whoops. Last, agencies in the county. By far, we are at the bottom. College Park is just a tad bit behind us. Once again, Forest Park and Morrow have surpassed us, and I have lost a few folk to Forest Park over the last year. But as you can see, going back to what the chief says, we have to try to be competitive, especially in our own county, to try to maintain and obtain the best public service that we can. Going back to incentives, much like the chief said, different entities have different incentives. One thing I do want to pick out, if you look at the third slide, Forest Park, they have an incentive-based program where a fire recruit can increase their salary up to 35% within the first 24 to 36 months, which is amazing. In addition, Sandy Springs a little bit there, but then just different incentives to kind of attract people, not only to public safety, but once we attract them, giving us the ability to obtain them. And I'll close with this, and I mean this with all due respect. I would ask that you look, when you look at your public service, these are the men and women who never go home. When we look in county government as a whole, it doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning. The men and women of these organizations are in the streets, and they're working to provide a safe community, whether it's from law enforcement, fire protection, EMS protection. Once again, whether it's holidays, weekends, snowstorms, ice storms, I would just ask that we please try to find a way to look at this salaries and to get us public safety leaders and our workforce back up to a competitive rate so we can attract some highly efficient and effective public servants. So with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Chief Sweat. And thank you, Chief Roberts. Board members,
Oh,
are
I'm
there?
not done, man.
Oh, you got more?
No. So in closing, I just want to leave you with a couple of real-world examples of our public safety compensation disparities. I lost a Clayton County Animal Control officer to Forest Park Animal Control. That ACO was provided an offer sheet with a starting salary of $58,000 to be an animal control officer in the city of Forest Park, who would therefore bring dogs that she gets in the city to the county facility. Then to add insult to injury, she would be making more than a police officer that was signing on to be a servant in this county, about $7 grand more. That is not acceptable to me, and we wonder why we might have challenges. I recently lost 2 officers to DeKalb County due to a higher salary and reduced insurance costs. And much like Chief Sweat said, to put things in perspective, public safety is the foundation of a successful community. If we want to get serious about economic development and prospering long-term as a county, we got to get serious about our competitive compensation. At the end of May, overall crime in Clayton County is down 6.6%, Despite what may be broadcast and communicated everywhere else, you can go to ClaytonPolice.com, engage the crime statistics button. That is public information 24/7 that's available to this community and anybody that wishes to look. If we want to continue this downward trend, we have to be serious about our compensation package. So I'm urging the board to take the appropriate steps to make sure we have a competitive compensation package for all of public safety in Clayton County. Now I'm done.
Okay. You feel better now?
Yes, ma'am. And I'll take any questions.
All right, board members, are there any questions at this time?
I have a comment.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Hambrick.
Well, two things really. I know, and I know this to be the case, that these other counties and cities love to get our people up. That's police and fire because of the training.
We train them well.
So do we have something in place as far as training is concerned that once you get trained, do they have some obligation to us?
They do.
For any period of time, instead of us training them, then they go somewhere else?
They do. There's a 2-year contract, which in the big scheme of things is not long. They spend a large portion of that first year in the police academy, then the additional field training, and you're a year through, and then you're making your probation, and that's when they're ripe for the picking at the end of the 2-year window. So it's nothing to keep them here after that 24-month period. And that's usually when we're seeing. Now, for those who venture out and try that access before the two-year point, we have reached out to those other agencies seeking payment. Some have paid. That's how serious it is. They will let us train them and pay us. But those are in minority. For the most part, we're losing them after that 2-year period.
So tell me about the paying. What did you?
They have to pay the amount of the salary related to the time of the training. So it's substantial.
Oh, and they pay, and the other?
Some agencies who have the funds, they will pay for those officers. Yes, ma'am.
We train.
But others,
we train that good. Yes,
ma'am. Absolutely. Top tier. Let me turn around. Yes. Right. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chief, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so ours is a 48-month payment plan, much like Chief Roberts. For me to take an individual off the street with zero prior experience, it's a 9-month training program. So they don't even get into service to the community until month 10. In addition to that, our probation, and I think yours is still the same, is an 18-month probation given the certifications that they must obtain. So ours is a 48-month agreement, which goes down every year by X%, but it's onboarding costs, training costs, certification costs, and we've had some that have, much like Chief Roberts, that owe upwards of $10,000 when they leave. And much like Chief Roberts said, we've had other agencies that will simply pay that bill because they want our highly trained individuals.
Right. Something you mentioned, Chief Sweat, regarding some agencies train just for fire, and how Clayton County trains for fire and EMS?
Yes, ma'am.
So is that a requirement for Clayton?
Yes, ma'am. So given that we provide fire and EMS protection to our community, it's a dual certification that they must obtain in that initial 9-month training program. 16 weeks of that is fire school. The additional 22 weeks is their EMT training, so they come out as a firefighter and an advanced EMT, which is a minimum qualification. But even once they finish the training, they have several attempts at the state test, which takes them up to their 18-month probation. Given that we provide EMS and have a transport service, then we have to be dual certified, as there's nobody that simply rides a fire truck and or simply rides an ambulance. Everyone assigned to operation is dual certified and basically rotate from different apparatuses to provide that service to the community, so everybody is well versed. Okay. A lot of organizations simply don't do EMS. Going back to Peachtree City, they do not. They far superior us from starting pay and as well as career advancement pay. However, they don't provide EMS protection. They simply provide fire service, a whole lot less call volume, but that is where we are different.
And most of our
and we control our destiny when having that EMS. A lot of the fire departments who simply don't have EMS, EMS call comes in, fire truck will get dispatched. That fire truck has to sit there until that private ambulance service has the ability to send a unit and then further that care and treatment to the hospital. We are under our own control of our destiny, which we need to stay and be competitive. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, I'm
Yes,
done. Chief Roberts, you mentioned something about 911.
Yes, ma'am.
About they have dual, well, I guess similar to what Chief Sweat was saying, dual roles, and when people come from Atlanta, they don't want to do the
Yeah,
dispatch.
exactly. So if you get a dispatcher from another agency, oftentimes they will solely have to do either one or the other. They're a call taker or dispatcher. Our elite communications professionals do them both. So they can take calls when they get calls from the citizens, and then they're also dispatching.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, see, I had a comment. In the future, I would definitely like to get with you and Chief Roberts and Chief Sweat. I did last month email Ms. Ambles in Human Resource and asked them to see what a tuition reimbursement program would look like for the county. And then I know Commissioner Davis was talking about maybe changing the vested years. I remember a long time ago talking to a sheriff deputy who said that he stayed here this long because of, I think it was 7 years at the time or something. And I
Yes,
think it's
ma'am.
10 years now, so that's a good point. But also, I haven't seen the budget fully yet, but I will say this for the record. I will support a pay incentive for those officers, even if that does involve a $500,000 increase for you guys. Because you're right, you don't go home to see your families, and you guys deserve it. So yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this
Yes.
time?
So
Commissioner
I
Harvey?
have a question. So thank you to both of the chiefs for this presentation. Are any of these salary recommendations reflected in the FY 2027 budget? I know we're hearing the full presentation tonight. I just want to, all right, thank you. Just wanted to make sure that we got that clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Thank
board.
you.
Thank you, thank you.
All right.
All right, next will be item 5, FIPA Programming, Director at GK.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, good evening. I come back again. Before I get into my presentation, the FIFA preparation in my tenure in Clayton County is the first time I've seen the whole county cooperate and work as a team. Everybody was involved and going through this. And I will say that this presentation tonight hinges on if we're going to move forward or not because of the timing. We don't have much time to stage this. So time is compressed. So, but anyway, I just wanted to not lose sight of that, to let you all know that we work together as a group, and the importance of this presentation is if we're moving forward or not because of the preparation that is needed. We don't have a whole lot of time. With that, I will start. So, what is FIFA to Clayton County? It is to put us on the map. There's a number of things that have been done already. If you look at the Concord C, Clayton County is running ad already, so that visitors will see us. A number of things have been done. We are the seat of a global hub, people coming to Hartsfield, that is in our county. It will showcase local culture, local community, and allow us to engage in global discussions. So those are the partners in the county that started deliberations and working out the logistics of all this. So if you look through this list, everyone is represented. And just for visuals, even outside partners, we are all involved. Every agency that caters to the welfare of the people of Clayton County played a part. Our communications and branding, convention and visitors bureau, the tourism folks, played a huge part also. Currently, if you look at some of the billboards in the county, it's advertising FIFA for the cities that are going to go first before us, and they are doing that on their own dime. That is of no cost to us, but advertising, once it start getting close to the dates we chose, the 7th and the 15th, those billboards will start reflecting our events. Our communication department, these are our logos for FIFA, partly because there is a restriction that you will not put the image of the cup in anything that you are advertising or use the word FIFA. So we developed our own. So that's that. Then the proposed activation sites. These are the cities. Riverdale, it will take place in Riverdale Amphitheater on June 12th. They have that's the early kickoff in the county. We have Forest Park, 27th. They chose 27 because they have a large number of Panamanians in Forest Park. So they choose the day Panama will be playing so that they can generate the buzz there. At the bottom of the chart is the match, the game times. Next one is Lovejoy. They picked July 15th. Also, you will see that one of ours is 15 also, but that's the day they picked. All that you see now, it's a go. All the cities are set to go. They're not planning anymore. They're all set to go. Now we come to unincorporated Clayton, which is ours. We chose 2 sites, Gerald Matthews Sports Complex and the Arena of South Lake, July 7th and July 15th. Those are the times for these games and the bullet points, activities that will take place in those. At the Gerald Matthews Sports Complex, we teamed up with Parks and Rec because there is an opportunity there. They have summer camp kids that will be bused to that area, and there's going to be some soccer clinics, and it will be quite an experience for them to go through all that and be a part of the festivities. There is a lot of stuff that will be happening over there. So we thought it was, and shout out to Parks. They allowed us to come partner with them to do that. And the next arena is the Arena of South Lake. That is another area in the county where we want to do 2 things. One, showcase our ability to host large events. It might not be on unincorporated Clayton, but you all, commissioners, you all know this. Economic development does not have city boundaries. It says Clayton County. So that's an opportunity for us to showcase that space and throw really a watch party of note to announce our county. And that's what that is about. This is an example where the floor of, this is not that arena, but this is an example of where such events have been held before. So the floor of the arena will be transformed into different type of activities, and folks will be sitting up on the lower bleachers to enjoy this. We have a VIP room and skybox, so that if any of the elected officials come, we want to make sure that you're all not sitting. I know you want to sit with your folks, but we cannot. But we cannot have a place for, in case you invite some other VIPs, have that those accommodations for them in there. But this is generally how festive it will look. So now we get to what would take this to happen for those two events on the 7th and the 15th. On the right side, it's where the cost breakdown will be. The total cost is $140.93. You wonder, in accounting, I know the CFO will laugh. They don't do cents. They carry whole numbers, but this is how detailed the costing is, so that we are stating what we're doing. And so that's how much it will cost us to do for those two sites. The return on investment on that 140 is not what you can put your hand on. It's an event. The memory lingers. You can measure some of the return on investment. You can measure it. It's not always. We can say you do A, you get B. It doesn't work that way. It's the goodwill. It's the citizens saying that we're embracing what is in the metro. This is going to be advertised in those billboards. And in the arena for sure, we know that folks are going to come. We recently, I think I can say this, we recently received a clearance from FIFA granting us the permission to air the games in these two arenas. And thank you to one of my staff, Brandon McCarden. He applied, and yesterday he sent me information that they approved us to show the games on these two sites. So I'm presenting at the same time pleading for this to, I need a sign.
So I have a question.
I need a sign
Mr.
to,
GK, is there
yes
going to
ma'am.
be an entrance fee?
Huh?
Is there entrance fee or anything from the?
No.
Okay.
FIFA rules, and we have to be very careful of this.
I want to make that clear.
FIFA rules it's 1,000 capacity.
Mm-hmm.
No fee, no fees involved. So we have to make sure that we don't have more than 1,000 people. And 1,000 people is a lot of folks. Mm-hmm. So we don't think we're going to hit that mark. But FIFA rules is that whatever you're doing has to be free. If you want to charge money, there is a licensing category you have to get to. Yeah, you can charge money, but you have to go through their licensing process and pay for it. But this is, everything is free. That's everything is free. So that is my presentation. And like I said earlier, I usually say the pleasure of the board, but I'm asking the board for their pleasure to be the work we have done so far in doing it. And the downside to this is we would like to be able to tell the vendor, because there are some of the things you saw in that, some of this has to be built out. It doesn't just turn on all of a sudden. The vendors, different vendors that's going to be responsible for this have to build this out. and come stage some of this stuff in this arena, so that we are at a point where literally tonight, where I want to leave saying that, okay, we're going to do this. And if it's okay if we're not going to do it, because I want to be able to say to them, hey, we change our mind, because we do have a right to change our mind if that's what it is. But I am asking that the pleasure of the board be that we do this. And that's the presentation.
All right, board members, is there any questions at this time?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner
Excuse me.
Hambrick?
I know you say entry fee and all was free.
Free, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what about the other things like food, the food trucks and all? Do they get to charge?
Yeah, the food, just the entry fee have to be free. But the food trucks, yeah, people will buy food over there.
Okay, so what about at the arena at South Lake? How does that work?
They will open up 2 or 3 concession stands.
Mm-hmm.
The foods that are sold there is fine. It's just that for you to enter into the arena, it cannot have a cover charge.
Okay, so who benefits from the sale of whatever goes on in the arena? Do we get the benefit of that, or does it go to whoever manages?
It goes to whoever manages, because we're not buying the food. We're not incurring any cost to do that.
I saw something on their list of, okay. What about at Gerald Matthews?
Yeah, at Gerald Matthews, I think that parks, the kids that are being bused, there is a budget in there, because parks usually feed the kids for lunch.
Okay.
We're going to kind of help in paying for that, to feed the kids, yeah.
Okay, and the group, your group, Commissioner Davis, the sports entertainment, whatever, are they a part of this? I didn't see them listed on here. That's who's participating.
Well, when you say Sports and Entertainment Council, you're looking at him for now. We are not directly. This is also Brandon that is here, and whoever team is here. This is a segue and a good practice for us, for Sports and Entertainment Council, because it's also advertising that we can actually pull this off.
Okay, because I thought one of the reasons we were pushing for that board was for the FIFA stuff coming and all, and we were pushing, trying to get board members and.
Part of the what we have been experiencing is that we have sent out letters to convene the board, because there are 13 members on the board. You have to have 7 to be able to have a quorum. So we haven't had the 7 yet. So that is what I'm struggling with, to get 7 people to agree to come to a meeting so that we can inaugurate it at least, and so they can set up their bylaws and go through the process of how they operate.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Commissioner?
So we are not in partnership with FIFA, am I correct?
No, we're not.
Okay, then why do we have to abide by $1,000, 1,000 folks coming in to view a game and it being free? I'm not saying that I'm against it. I'm saying, why are we falling under FIFA guidelines if we're not a partner with FIFA?
We're going to show their games live. And that's the reason. The fact that you're showing the games live, that's why they're saying that.
So we have a viewing licensing agreement?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going back looking at this budget here, and I'm looking at 20% insurance and miscellaneous fees for $15,000. I'm also looking at a security and police fee as well as medical EMT. Who are they using?
As you know, the arena have a vendor that runs the arena for them. And this is the cost they gave us. We've had this discussion, and the CEO sent me back to ask some poignant questions as to what does this fee mean? It means that they are in charge of it. Whatever that happens inside of the arena, that's part of how they rent out the space. They control this.
So in essence, it doesn't seem like we're a partner in this arena at anything. We're just a vendor that wants to come rent space from them. That's what it appears like to me with this. Even when I look at concession and food truck tailgate, and I see a double asterisk here. So we're putting up $140,000 for these events. Everything is there, but the money is going to the management company that is managing the arena.
It's not the management company. The breakdown is 95 of the money is going to the person, the vendor that's going to stage the event. The arena don't do that.
Well, I'm not talking about the expenditures. I'm talking about revenue being produced and generated.
But the revenue being produced.
Correct.
The revenue being produced in the arena, I don't know what the revenue sharing agreement is when the county partnered with the building of that. Maybe the county attorney or we'll talk about.
I think it's something that needs to be.
Yeah, but the revenue, okay, the amount that you're seeing for the arena, being in the arena, is partly because the space is free to us. But there are ancillary services, like they're going to staff the place. They're going to have crowd control inside of arena. We're not doing any of that. They're going to hire whoever they hire to do that. They've done about 4 or 5 events in there. So they know how to run their facility. Though that's where we are incurring expenses, not the use of the space. Will our logos and everything be within that facility at that time? Yes, there is stuff that's being built. It will have Clayton County. That the event is for Clayton County, so it will have our logos on them. Okay.
And we'll be on the screen, on the big screen.
You see?
No, I just said we'll be on the big screen. The logo.
No, yeah, the logo will be on
Clayton
the logo of the big screen. There are some of the things we are getting that we might hold back after the event to use for sports and entertainment. We are careful about the text that's going on things so that we can use them after the fact. Not everything can be used, but to the extent that it can, we want to keep those things.
I was just thinking, if there was a mention of security and all that. Now, isn't it something, or is it something, and Chief may be able to answer this, Chief Roberts, regarding wherever we are as a county employees, county commission, whatever, that county police show up anyway, or kind of obligated to secure us. And I would think the same with Parks and Recreation. And fire. So how does that work?
Okay, the arena is in the city limits of Morrow.
Okay.
And the city of Morrow police would be the first ones that would respond to any incident in the area. Of course, we would supplement if there was a critical incident that occurred in that space. It would be all hands on deck, and county police would be en route. Of course, we're responsible for the Gerald Matthews Center, and we'll be on site there. But jurisdictionally speaking, the city of Morrow is the primary law enforcement agency where the arena sits, and whoever that vendor contracts with can have off-duty officers in space. Keywords off-duty. But if there's a critical incident, on-duty personnel will have to respond and support.
Okay, so I guess under the arena, security and police will be Morrow with the amount, I guess this money would be going to.
Yes, ma'am. And they may employ off-duty Clayton County police officers, Clayton County Sheriff's Office deputies, and the like.
Thank you.
Chief.
Fire and EMS is almost the exact same. So if you'll specifically look at medical and EMT, it is my understanding through the arena, the managing partner who is managing the arena, they are providing medical and EMT coverage inside the arena. Should the event someone get hurt and or become ill and need to be transported out of that facility to a hospital, much like Chief Roberts, that is the City of Morrow's jurisdiction. City of Morrow Fire also provides EMS. When you look at EMS, they are broken down by EMS zones, and they are mandated by law. Clayton County EMS cannot go into that zone and provide coverage unless we are asked to come in. Much like Chief Roberts, if something happens at this event, if you'll recall, 2 weeks ago, we did a mass casualty drill at the arena over the course of 3 nights. Police, fire, sheriff, and all the municipalities. There's a plan, should something happen here, every public safety in the county is going to be needed. But initially, we can't go in until we are asked to come in.
Okay, thank you all.
Can we get some type of IGA from the school system, or, and not more or less for them, I'm sorry, Chief, more or less from some kind of IGA from the school system and or
We have something,
the
but it's
arena
old
to
and I
begin to look
read
at? But we need something that's new.
So the board has already entered into the IGA with the school system. What we're talking about specifically is the other ancillary costs outside of when they waive the rental fees. What is not part of the negotiation is when we talk about the stage hands, the security, the food, some other things, that is all within the management fee. So again, that's where the superintendent said that we would go back and revisit that
We must.
and have a larger
Because
conversation
it didn't look
around those
favorable to
areas.
us, for us.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So we
so-
get the latest and greatest of an IGA, that'd be appreciated.
Yes.
Correct. The other thing to keep in mind, when the county institutes their 20 days at some point in time, we will have opportunities to leverage revenue, right? So even if we have to pay the overhead here, at some point in time when we're charging fees or whatever it might be, then we can defray some of the costs with the fact that we have these expenses, but the revenue will help balance that out.
Understand?
And when we look, let's look at that, because it mentions something about the 20,
20
is it 20
20
days or
days.
whatever? But then with that short time period, I'm thinking, how can we get 20 days that we would know? I think it's like a 90-day notice or something.
We have to get from the IGA as to when will our 20 days start annually. So hypothetically, if we say September 1 will be the first year, then we will provide them dates post-September 1 all the way to September 1 of the next year to go ahead and secure our dates of the
But
county.
if you gotta let them know 90 days ahead of time, then, anyway, that 20 activities does not fit in that 90-day requirement or whatever. So please, let's really look at that. I don't recall seeing that before. Well, anyway, so please, let's look into that.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question.
All right, Commissioner Allen.
So Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Hambrick got my brain going. On July 7th, we have a community celebration for $19,000. And then, because that's hosted by Parks and Recreation. But if you go to the box right under it, the total for Parks and Recreation is $16,000. Is there a difference, or something subtracted out the 19 to equal the 16? So July 7th. And then the box under for Park and Recreation. So it's 16,000 and 19,000. What are the difference in those fees?
I'm looking for the 19,000.
It's all the way at the top. It's the very first line.
That's the first thing.
Yeah, the
Okay.
FIFA
The
community
celebration.
celebration. Because I would
Under
think,
item.
yeah, I would think I don't know, are we paying people to host the clinics?
No,
That comes up to 19,000?
That is the staging, the consultant that will have to stage the park, to do to be able to do, there are so many things that's gonna be in the park. Face painting, soccer clinics, and all that. That's a lot of stuff that the consultant is bringing to the park to complement what parks are doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I have a question too. I'm looking at the security and police. 7,500, is that normal? Can that be negotiable? Because that's high for 4 hours. Because 5 hours. How long are we gonna be there for? 12 to 6 or 6 hours? I don't know. That's just expensive too.
But that's what we signed off on in that IGA.
But I'm not knowing that was
Read it,
that. But I don't think that price was what we signed off on that IGA.
So remember, when we signed the IGA with the school system, The only thing the school system was negotiating was the rental costs.
Okay.
And that was being waived.
Yeah.
I don't think the management company was in place when we signed.
They weren't in
So
place.
a lot of
they
this
came up
is
with those
dictated by the
prices,
management
not the
fee.
school, not
That
the
is
school
correct.
system. That's why I said,
Yes.
can we negotiate with the management company on the 7,500 and come up with a a better fee?
And I think that's part of the conversation with the superintendent
Thank
and the
you.
management company once we get a chance to sit down.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I also had a
All right,
few questions.
Commissioner Reed.
So, I know there was discussion around the IGA for, working with the school board for use of the facility. So I'm just curious if this event, has already been negotiated in the number of days that the BOC has, to use the, convocation complex?
No, ma'am.
And then, so the KMP professional services fee, the one that's about 30,000, is that through the CCPS center, or is that separate? Is that, a fee for whoever is assisting putting this program together?
No, ma'am, that's separate.
Okay. So I did want to talk a little bit about timeline, because I know that there were some members of the board who, was it last Tuesday? Was the first time that we had heard the full scope for this event. And I'm just thinking back to earlier this year when, all the commissioners as well as members of the C-suite took those leadership tests. And we all know that I'm someone who likes to sit and read information. And I realize that we're on a time crunch, but the city of Atlanta, MARTA, Georgia has been preparing for FIFA for the past 2 years. So I'm just a bit perplexed about why it's June and we're planning for an event for July for a soccer event that has been in the works for years.
So all due respect, Commissioner, initial correspondence regarding this went out to the whole board on May 14th at 2:47 p.m. in the form of an email.
So
to
2
give-
months.
Well, it was 2 months, but again, information has gone out to the board outlining the specifics of the request to include the costs and all the ancillary components associated with this event.
Well, if you think that's sufficient amount of time for the board to make a decision about spending $140,000, I mean, we're an hour behind in discussing the budget for fiscal year 2027, and we're talking about whether or not the county wants to spend $140,000 for a 2-day event.
I respect that position, Commissioner, but when the email went out on the 14th, I have not heard from anything from the board prior to the conversation that we had last week.
All right.
All right, are there any other questions at this time? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is item 6, the local homestead option sales tax, legal, finance, and is our tax commissioner coming as well?
I think she's
I try to cover all my bases. May not have
You can
all
be
of
all
them
of
coming up there. So I am going to be as brief as I can because I know we are much longer than we have. So this is a presentation on the local homestead option sales tax. I'm just going to call it the LHOS. I don't have to keep saying that over and over again. That's is based on, what I'm providing to you is based on information that was provided by ACCG on May 14th. So I won't take credit for a lot of this. So first, this is related to Senate Bill 2026, which was passed this year. I'm sorry, Senate Bill 33 that was passed this year, which created 581, which was the floating homestead exemption, applied that uniformly throughout the state of Georgia. No longer able to opt out like 581 allowed, and that was effective for this upcoming tax year. Again, just to remind you and the public that the Senate Bill 33 caps annual increases based on the rate of inflation, is limited to primary residences and 5 acres. And since this will be going into effect for us next year, the base value will be based on the 26 value of homesteaded property. Senate Bill 33 also created the L-host option. And so what is that? It essentially allows a penny tax that when there are sales that are done, that the amount of sales tax, a percentage of that is taken to reduce property taxes for homesteaded properties. And so, again, it is same kind of demographic of people who the floating homestead exemption, primary residence up to 5 acres, again, 1%. And so how does it get started? The reason why we're talking about this right now is that it's initiated by a local act of the General Assembly, and then municipalities, if they're interested in also having a similar thing, they would have to go and seek their own local acts through the General Assembly. The timeline for this is fairly short because Governor Kemp said on June 4th, I believe, that he was allowing this special session to give the consideration of the L-host local acts. And why is that important? Because if they're able to pass that now, it'll give enough time for citizens to be able to vote on that in November of this year, with an effective date to go into next year, January 27th.
Excuse me, but is it something where we have to get with the local delegation?
You are right on time. So,
okay.
So yes, if it's passed, it's a 10-year act. Again, the voters have to approve it with a renewal. After that 10 years, it has to go back and get voted on again. I'm going to get to the whole process of how it starts. So again, I'm not going to read that line for line, but basically what happens is once collections are taken, that is given to the state, the percentage of what's collected is applied to local homestead. So it basically becomes a wash. The citizens benefit by what's reduced, and then the state pays back the county for what we reduce the homestead exemption by. And if there are other cities that participate, those funds are also distributed proportionally based on their actual homestead digest.
Can a city opt out?
No, they would actually have to opt in. They would have to ask for their own local act. If they don't, then it would just be the county that would have that. But every city, if the county, well, the county has to go first. Right. If the county goes first, then the cities can go ahead and tag along too, to implement this L-host tax.
Is it mandatory for the cities?
No, not at all. It's not even mandatory for the county. I'm just presenting it to you all as an option since the governor opened it up for the 17th special session.
Is that okay? That's part of that discussion.
Yes. So if there's an excess, an amount, if sales tax exceeds what would be collected or applied to the homesteaded properties, then the rest of those proceeds are distributed uniformly throughout the county to reduce the millage rate for all properties. Again, the primary beneficiaries of those homesteaded properties up to 5 acres. So what's the potential economic impact? It shifts property taxes to consumers. So it would affect anybody who spends money in the county, and it shifts the property tax to consumption tax. Some administrative considerations is that every year there would have to be a calculation of what did the county collect in sales tax that year. Then you'd have to reflect what the proposed reduction will be on the tax bill. And so the millage rate would have to be adopted. It has to be adopted no later than September 1st of every year. I think we usually do that anyway, but it says by law you have to do it. Oh, okay, that was upside down. So the percentage of the county's digest based on the numbers from a chief appraiser. I'm not going to read all of that. We have approximately 90,000 parcels. Residential is about 85,000. Agriculture is about 254 parcels, and commercial is about 5,118 parcels. And so, again, these are all just approximations. Some of that is old data, the current year real property tax. There's probably a little lag, so it may not be exact amount. And I've also been told that the estimated sales tax may actually be a little higher. So, but I want to just talk to you about the concept, so that if that was 60 million a year, we'll just use that number, then 6 million would be applied to the homesteaded property portion of real property tax. That's basically all that says, so some numbers. So these are just some general questions for consideration. I'm not going to go through all of these right now, but just in general, you got to think about whether, because it would go from our tax, the sales tax rate would go from 8% to 9%. And so does that, how the business community consider, how would they consider that? How would consumers relate to, that extra penny, if it would even make a difference? And, what's the impact of lowering homesteaded taxes or properties on homesteaded properties versus non-homesteaded properties? Just want to give you quickly some of the other surrounding counties' tax rates just for sake of comparison. I'm not going to read that. You can read that yourselves. But we would be, if we are currently at 8%. So if we went to 9, we would be, unless others adopt a similar, we would be one of the highest in the metro area. So if you're interested, we would have to adopt a resolution on the 16th. And that resolution would ask for the legislative delegation to submit a local act for approval at the General Assembly. If you all are also interested in pursuing this, I would recommend talking to your mayors and also to the legislative delegation so that they are aware that you have an interest in this, because I'm sure there's going to be internal work that they have to do with legislative council just to be prepared, that because since the session is going to start on the 17th, they don't want to find, I would suspect they won't want to find out the 17th that you all are interested in doing this. And then if the General Assembly passes it, then the board will issue a directive to the Board of Elections to issue the call for a vote by the citizens in November 2026. And so if you have any questions. Sure.
How will this impact our fire fund?
What it will do is reduce whatever impact, if there's, I guess,
Chief,
you don't use okay.
It will stink. So, so the fire fund, the current millage rate, 86% of the fire fund budget is simply property taxes. We get no sales tax revenue, we get no loss revenue. I've been studying this or looking at this very closely because it will have an impact on the funding for fire protection in the community. Even going back to Commissioner Hambrick's question about do the cities have to follow suit. And I'm sure Chuck is a whole lot smarter than me, but the way I understand this is the reduction in the homestead exemption that will be passed on to the citizens of the community will lower those property taxes that are now paid to the government, in addition to that 4.14 mils that is paid into the fire fund. So by that reduction in revenue and understanding that I get no other sales tax or anything, it will have an impact on the revenue as we know it today for the fire fund in the future. Even more so, a little bit deeper, going back to Commissioner Hambrick's, if the county decides to do this, implement the 1% takes us to 9, or the 1 cent, excuse me. The municipalities don't follow suit. For those municipalities that we provide fire protection to, i.e. Lovejoy, Jonesboro, Riverdale, and Lake City, those property taxes will even further decrease, which will also have a negative impact on our overall fire fund budget. High level overview, if that makes sense.
So
right?
let me just make sure that I'm understanding, because what happens is that there's not going to be a reduction. Whatever is saved by the homestead properties will be reimbursed by the county. So there's a net impact. All it does is shift the burden from property taxes to sales taxes to confront that. Okay.
And that makes sense.
Okay.
Right, but, and understand, and I don't know if there's something we need to look at deeper, because once again, I understand the additional penny will help offset it, and that will come back to the government as the form of revenue to help balance it. But currently, the fire fund is not set up to accept any form of revenue such as that. So I don't know how we need to look at that in the future. Does that make sense? Because there is 86% of our budget is property tax. A large portion of it is an internal revenue that we create, and simple timber tax and some past revenue. It's very basic, but there's no any form of sales tax, loss tax, or anything that specifically comes to the fire fund, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like we need a lot of discussion, because if we're talking budget now and a possible millage increase and those things, because it sounds like next year is when it really hits. And
It is my understanding the fiscal year 28 budget is when we will see this impact, correct?
It will.
I thought it was 27, but 26.
So actually it'll be, no, you're right, it'll be 28, because it'll start, the adoption will be for September 27, based on the millage rate for then. And again, it's, and I don't want to, because again, I did not go to math. That was not my major. But my understanding is that this does not, all it does is a shifting mechanism, not a income replacement. So if property taxes if the fire fund is funded by property taxes, it will continue to be funded by property taxes. It's just that whatever reduction comes from sales tax, it takes that out. That's kind of the mechanism.
Well, there's two portions of that. So if we have the homestead that is being implemented, the question becomes if the state is, in a sense, replacing those lost funds from homestead, how are they coming in? Because they're not going to come in as property tax, I would not assume. So if they're not coming in as property tax, fire still does not recoup anything. It's basically they will lose whatever percentage of that homestead equated to our normal. I'm hoping I'm getting this right. So let's just say if the homestead loss was 12%.
No, well, it all, yeah.
So
That's the way I understand it, Commissioner. Once again,
I'm just wondering, how is that fund, how is the state
I'll
delivering those funds?
The way I understand it is there will be a reduction in property tax revenue coming into the general coffers, correct? Whether that's general fund money, fire fund money, it's the tax burden.
No, that's not the way it works. What
A lot of
happens is,
discussion.
so what happens is it's not a reduction.
Correct.
It's not a reduction. That's why I want to make sure you're clear.
Okay.
It's not a reduction, it's a shift. So in other words, the property tax owners, the homestead people are not paying the tax. You're shifting the burden of property taxes to sales tax. It does not affect if you get $1,000 from a person for property tax to go to the fire fund, you're still getting $1,000. It's just it's not coming from that person, it's coming from the sales tax. Sales taxes are reducing that. The commissioner, who is the Department of Revenue, will, whatever dollar we say we've used to offset that, a check will come from them to offset. So you're not going to gain anything, you're not going to lose anything. The policy perspective is simply shifting the burden. And that's a choice that the board has to decide if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, from the county perspective, I totally agree with that.
Right.
We're talking just now fire, so that's where, go ahead, Chief.
And
I'm
sorry,
No,
wrong,
go
a reduction,
ahead.
not
Go
the
ahead.
right word, but I think we're saying the same thing. All I would ask, and then I'll digress and go sit down, is as we move toward the fiscal year 28 budget, looking at this, right now, as the fire budget is currently set up, there is no sales tax revenue that supports the provision of fire service in this community. It's 86% property tax. The remaining 14% is internal revenue and some other general things.
Exactly.
So what I would ask, as we move to the FY 28 budget, and I understand what Chief Staff Attorney is saying, we're simply shifting a percentage of that burden over to the consumer to take some of the relief off the homesteaded property, that we ensure that we find a way to get that shifted back over to the fire fund, if that makes sense.
Sounds to me that it sounds to me that all three of our economic development groups need to really get to it.
Yep.
Well, the other part is this, is that we need to kind of look at, we know if we go to 9, that's the cap.
Correct.
Now, I know there's been this discussions with the state to move that to 10, but it's not happened as of yet. So we want to make sure that we're not pinching ourselves in some way.
And again, the reason why I brought this to you is because it's a short time frame. If you do not want to pursue that now, that doesn't prevent you from doing it at a later time. It's just that he opened this window for consideration of that in this upcoming special session. If you decide that you want to take some time to study it and think about it, you can always put it as a legislative priority for the next General Assembly.
So how long is this session, the special session going to be, do you know?
Until they figure out what they're going to do.
It's not a limit of,
No.
I mean, I'm just thinking how quick we need to really get it together. Okay.
It'll be after the special session's over.
They're not gonna keep it too long.
Board members, are there any other questions at this time regarding the local homestead option sales tax? All right. Seeing none, this work session is concluded, and so we will adjourn